Hey, my name is Alex Amoruso. I'm a member of the Ocean Wood Turners, wood turning club here in Rhode Island. And about 6 years ago, I read this article in the AAW. It was wedge assemblies offer a tangential twist. And really kind of made me interested. So I started making these. The objective of this video is to show you how to go about cutting the wood to do this very easily. It looks like it's really complicated and really hard to do, but it's really not. What happens when you cut wood tangentially, what you do is you cut wedges, and those wedges, can be all put together and assembled around a cone in the center, and that cone makes them lean over and show how the tangential lineup looks like. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to cut a wedge that we're going to use to cut one of these wedges, and you get the idea on how to do it. Okay? All right. Okay. In order to cut the wedges, all right, we need to make some jigs, all right, with the angle on it, so we can cut multiple pieces and have them, cut pretty close to what we need. So what we do is, all right, we determine the angle that we're going to use. Like this one here is 4, this one's 6, and this one is 6. They do two different pieces. And those we're going to actually use these today to cut the pieces for the bowls. In order to do that, all right, you have to have a large square piece like this, okay, and a Wexley digital indicator. All right, you turn it on, put it down on the surface, all right, and then hit the 0 so that it becomes perfectly parallel to this surface. Okay, put it up on top of the piece, and then see what we got here. Okay, and then we stick a wedge that I've made here to set the angle. So I keep moving it in and in and in. Until it hits 4. Oops. There we go. Okay? All right. Then what I do, all right, is I turn it on its side here, all right, and screw it together. Okay, I can hold it there. Okay, how do we go about making this wedge here to fit underneath? What I do is I use a square like this, okay, and I take a block of wood and I set the square with the indicator to the degrees that I want. Okay, so basically, all right, Four 3.9, 4.0, okay, 4.0. And then what I'll do is take a block of wood and just draw a line on the block. Okay, and then I cut that on the bandsaw. That gives me the wedge that I need just to calculate the angle. So you can do anything with that. 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever. That's going to be something you'll have to make individually for each one of these. Okay? Then you come over to the table saw here. Clean up my area. All right. Have to raise the height of the blade so that it cuts all the way through.
I can't put these on.
Hold it. Okay, so we're set up here with the block against the fence, and I'm just going to push it through, and that'll cut the 4-degree angle. All right. Now, okay. So when I start to saw up, you're going to hear a bang. If you look over there, that's where the blast gate opens up for the dust collector. So, turn on the dust collector.
Yeah.
And then you have, okay, we're going to make the pieces, the blanks, to cut on the table saw, all right? So what we've got here is just some pieces of cherry, all right? Now this piece is going to be cut out of 2 different angles. The cherry will be cut at 6 degrees, and the maple will be cut at 4 degrees. Together that adds up to 10 degrees. 10 into 360 says you need 36 pieces of each one. Right? So when we make these, this is a strip that will be cut off into different lengths, all right, to make the individual pieces. But how do we make these strips? I take the pieces of wood, all right, and plane them to thickness that I want, and then I'll take a wide piece like this, and on the bandsaw I will cut the side pieces, all right, the accent pieces of wood that go on each side. Okay? Okay, I'm going to start cutting on this, all right, and I'll turn on the saw and then the dust collector. Okay, so we cut those pieces, all right, on the bandsaw. Now obviously we need a lot more, but I'll cut those after. What I'm going to do now is run it through the planer. Now the way I do that, this is very thin. It's going to come out to 3/32. So what I do is, come over this way, I put a piece of wood on here with a Formica top. That's exactly 1 inch thick. So when I set the height of the blade, it's going to be 1 inch plus 3/32. All right, and that'll give the overall dimension that I need. Okay, so we finished cutting and planing these pieces, all right? To glue on, we're going to glue up the strips. So this is how I do it. I put them together, all right, and spread some glue on them. And then what I do is I use a little roller to spread the glue. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just loosen this up here. Take one of these pieces, all right, and put it on the side with the glue on it.
You didn't put any.
And just flip them over. This one's already got one on the other side, so put glue on this side. Okay, and put some strips on this side. Okay. Now, here's the trick. I'm going to glue them together, but I use waxed paper in between each one. So, I put my block in here so I can get some even pressure to it. Put the wax paper on. And this one here was already glued on, so there's no glue going to seep out of it. So I just put this in here. Even these up on the ends. Tighten the clamps. Snug them up. Now, after I snug them up, I bang them down a little bit because they try to rise a little bit with the glue slipping them. And then put another one on the top. And another one here. Now as the glue oozes out, you're going to have to keep tightening them a little bit. Yeah, that's about it for now. I'm going to wipe the glue off, and you'll be able to see, how it, kind of oozes out. When I do the bottom, it's quite obvious. Okay. Let's see if I can get it down here. Okay, so we got a lot more gluing to do because we're going to glue up pieces like this, okay, in order to make the platter, all right? Those are going to be cut at 6 degrees, and they'll be, 36 pieces of cherry and 36 pieces of the maple. Okay, and they have to be glued up the same way, and the strips cut, the whole thing. Alright? Okay, so we got some pieces dried up. I'm going to cut them to length. Alright, and after we do that, we'll cut them on the angles using the wedges. I'll show you how we do that. Okay, these are going to be each cut 5 inches. We're going to use the jigs that we made to cut the 6, 4, and then the 6th degree on this too for the platters. Okay, so first thing, always make sure you have a 0 clearance insert for the saw. You don't want any space between the blade and the insert. Okay. Then the other thing is, when you're pushing it through, you don't want to hold the outside piece against the blade, otherwise it'll kick back on you. Just let it go, and it'll just come back by itself. All right. So here we go. Now we're going to go with the 4 degrees on the maple. Now at the 6 degrees, all right, we had one little slip up there where it came away from the fence a little bit, but not a big problem. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put all these together, all right, and make the 2 blanks to cut the bowl and the platter. Okay? Okay, so we finished cutting, and the maple here is cut at 4 degrees, and this is the cherry cut at 6 degrees, and that adds up together to be 10. So if you divide 10 into 360, that's 36. That means we need 36 of these and 36 of these. Okay? One of the problems I've had with this, sometimes you can get a little careless and don't alternate them. You got to make sure that you put one of each, okay, when you put them together. So don't have like 2 cherry or 2 maple together. All right? So, here we go. Just basically just going to lay them out. Taking one from each pile. Okay, when you get more than your hand can hold, all right, go to the elastics. Just take an elastic and put it around it. That pulls them in, okay? So now, I'll just put them together like freehand almost. And stick them under the elastic. Oops, gotta put them this way. Okay, now when you put the elastics on, I use more than one, you can start seeing the tangential effect. See how it's winding down in the center? So, really, the more of an angle that you have, if you look at the sides, you can see how it slopes. All right? That's what's going to give you the nice look. Okay? Now, I made this before, because what I did was open it up, and I actually took the measurements at the top and the bottom of the hole. And then I made this on the lathe and just put it in there. And you'll be able to see that it's nice and tight on the bottom and tight on the top. Okay, that's the perfect gluing capability here. All right. So basically, what I'm going to do now is lay this out, put the glue on it, spread it, and then once I've got that done, I'll show you how I put it together. Okay? Okay, glue's almost all spread here. You can see that what I've done is I set them on a little stick to hold them up so the glue doesn't run off them while I'm waiting. All right? These rows here are all done, and I'm just going to finish these now. You can see that this isn't there's just so many pieces, it takes a little while, but it's not a big deal to spread this much glue with the roller. Because they're all set in alternating pieces, it's much easier not to make a mistake like that. So, now that this is done here, we'll just start putting them together.
Do you have to be too fussy with the glue?
Hmm?
Do you have to be too fussy with the glue?
Fussy?
I mean, yeah, like, is it important? You could tell them that.
Just leave it on.
Okay.
When you start off this, you'll notice I started each row with a maple, so that's an easy way, to ensure that you don't make a mistake. And you end with a cherry. And you always make sure when you collect them, you go from left to right. You don't want to take a shortcut and start from the other end, because then you could very easily make a mistake. Okay. Again, we start with the elastics. I guess I got to put some tape on this. So give me a minute and I'll come back. Okay, put some tape on this so it won't get glued to the piece on the inside. Alright, so just stick this in. Now don't press it all the way down. Okay, I'm going to put it about halfway in and then put the clamps on. Okay, now I'm going to go around the edge. You can see, see here, they're not all even. I'm going to bang them in so they get more even. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll see that, you know, it makes it easier once you get it tightened up. Okay. Then you can hit this in, right? Now, if you look at the bottom here, you see it's pretty tight. Okay? So what I normally do in this situation is I'll come over here to my press block, okay, and press it in. So just going to take some wax paper and put this down. Okay. And open that up. Okay. And then tighten it down. Now you can see all the glue oozing out now. This is really tightening it up. If you don't have one of these, you can actually use a big clamp and clamp it down, you know, from top, the clamp underneath it, and use that to hold it together. And you can see the glue is all like bubbling out. That means that you're wedging the pieces together. And that's about it.
So,
well, we have one more to glue up. We're going to glue up that platter piece, right? And I'll get that set up now, and I'll put the glue on them, and then we'll get that glued up. Okay, we've got all the wedges with glue on them for the platter, so we're just going to start putting them together. Okay, you have to look them over, make sure you got all the alternating colors in here. Okay, all set. All right. And you got the big clamps on them. Got my cone here. Okay. All right, you gotta hold over a second. I gotta get my... Okay, I put the cone in. You'll notice that the cone is covered with tape, so the glue won't, you know, adhere to it. And we're just gonna basically snug this up here. Okay. Now get the other clamp on the top. I use 2 clamps on this because it's really important that you get enough pressure on it. Okay, now this is where you run into a little problem where sometimes the pieces don't line up correctly. They rise up a little bit, so you gotta make sure you keep them down. All right, give me that hammer. Thank you. So we have to use a persuader. Okay, and the other key is to put it down flat on a table like this and pound the edge down. Okay, we just checked that out. You're not going to get it perfect, so just kind of do what you can to level them out.
That one right there.
That's about it. That looks decent. Okay, we'll just let it dry.
Got it?